Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome to this week's episode of Tuesday Preppers, and I'm pretty excited about this week. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. Even if we might get a lot of that stuff done on like the first day, the way events tend to go these days, I think it'll still be a lot of fun. We've got a couple cool things happening. There's a really neat Chronicle battle happening with a good, pretty good sword to upgrade. So, but before I just ramble on about like all of it and not even go into like my normal process, let's talk about it. Let's do it right. So this week's content is Final Fantasy 1. If you've never played Final Fantasy 1, it is a real challenge, and it is full of old-timey nostalgia, and it's the origin of everything that we do here with FFBE. So it's pretty cool. I think you should definitely check it out if you've never played it. There's so many different ways you could play it on like different ports and emulators and all that stuff. I played Final Fantasy 1 on like I think it was like the PS1 Final Fantasy Origins port, which is pretty cool. So yeah, definitely check it out if you never have. But if you're not going to and you're going to just play FFBE, that's okay too. There's tons of cool stuff that's happening in the game right now to go into that. And so the first thing is this, the Old Chaos Shrine. It's a King Mog event, and of course we're going to be getting Garland, and getting him up to Neo Vision's Awakened, and this new update to his armor is really pretty decent for a piece of budget equipment with a human killer on it, and lots of good stuff, tickets and all the fun things. You're gonna be able to upgrade Garland for free in the event, so don't skip that. Crystal Shield gives you Nullify Stone, which is sometimes very useful, especially as a budget piece of equipment, so don't miss out on that. And then the fun part is all the way at the bottom here. The Earth, Fire, Water, and Wind Fiends Rush. So we get a King Mog and a Boss Rush. And the Fiends are kind of like big enemies in Final Fantasy 1. So if you've never played it, that's kind of what that is. And you're going to be going up against them. So we also have a Chronicle battle against the Death Eye. And this is the farming type where we're going to be going after getting some cool stuff, the Giant's Gloves and the Sword of Light. And Sword of Light is a pretty nice tanking weapon, so definitely worth upgrading. Even if you don't pull on the units, it's good to have and good to upgrade for us a tanking sword, which is pretty nice. So let's think about what kind of stuff we might need to knock out this event really quick, okay? Really fast, let's do this and this. Okay, so for all three of the events, the Chronicle Battle and the King Mog event and the Boss Rush, one of the enemies that you're going to be facing is a Reaper type. So the Lich in the Boss Rush, the Death Eye in the Chronicle Battle, and the King Mog event. So those are both Reapers or Undead or whatever you want to call them. So you want to have Reaper Killer somewhere in your party, at least for some of that stuff. Demon Killer, the bombs that you face in the King Mog, and then the Merilith is a demon. Aquan Killer, which is everybody's favorite, is you fight the Kraken as one of the fiends, and Dragon Killer for Tiamat. Of course, Dragon, Queen of Dragons, all that stuff. So that's again in the Boss Rush. So you're going to want all those killers somewhere in your party, whether it's coming from a buff or equipment or something like that. Also worth paying attention to the elements that we need. We need fire and light, and this is going to get kind of complicated. So the Death Eye is weak to both fire and light, so you can pick your team, fire or light, whatever you want. And then the Reaper and the Dragon are weak to both fire and light. And then the Demon is weak to light, and the Aquan is weak to fire. So when you're putting together your team for the Boss Rush, you kind of have to have fire and light, unless you're bringing somebody with a really massive fire imperil or a really massive light imperil to use against all of them, because all of them resist opposed elements at 120%, which most good or most normal imperils are 120%. So unless you can get somebody with 135 in there, you're going to be having a hard time doing damage. So that said, try and bring both fire and light, and you're going to have an easier time. Now, we've talked about a lot of these killers several times. Aquatic, there's just not very much in the game to go after. We've done this trial, Scorn of the Beasts of the Dark, before, but there are some good TMRs and STMRs, of course, for that. So going and picking up those for Aquatic Killer, even though it's only a small portion of this event, could be useful, but it might also be better just to bring somebody who can do like an Aquatic Killer buff for your party. So those are definitely things to think about. Demon, there's so much demon stuff in the game that we've talked about and done over and over again, that I'm not going to focus too heavily on this one either. But there's a lot of stuff out there that you could use. Again, one of my favorites is the Mask of Ashura. We did the Dark Steel Heavy Armor last time. Force Mysterion is super, super good. But there's just lots of good things. Crucifying Coercion is also really, really good if you can swing that one. That's a little harder to do on a budget, but it is there. And then dragons, lots and lots of stuff for dragons. My two favorites, the Dragon Killer Plus and the Dragon Killer Plus Recipe, as well as Asura's Rod for mages, or the Holographic Transceiver for Xyrus, although it's an STMR. Lots of decent stuff there for dragons. And that's not even talking about the physical stuff for dragons. This is just the magical stuff. And then Reaper, which is where we're going to spend the majority of our time tonight. Undead Killer Plus is on the Doulahan. Now, I put out a video a couple weeks ago about doing Doulahan with Tiana and Tyvis that I thought was pretty fun. So that's out there for an Undead Killer Plus. But there's also Reaper Eater Sense that you can also get from the Stroper Trial, the hard version of that. And so that's the one we're going to be going after tonight, just because it's a pretty solid materia for Reaper Killer. But there's lots of other stuff as well. There are definitely a lot of good things to pick up and try and use as you're going after some of these trials. But the one we're going after is Reaper Eater Sense. So let's go take a look at it in the Vortex. It's one of the 12 types takedown trials against the Stroper. So we see here it does Reaper Eater Sense, and that is on the harder difficulty. This is a 460 difficulty fight against the Stroper, the advanced version. Currently only costs 10 energy, and the challenges are to complete it, to defeat it within 10 turns with a party of 5 or less. No KOs is going to get you, the ticket here. But the one we really, really care about is the Reaper Eater Sense. But I'm going to go ahead and take this out with a party of 5 and no KOs. The strategy, it tells us it's a stone enemy, and your tank needs defense and HP. It does single target attacks on certain turns, which remove petrification resistance buffs and inflict stone. So even if you have somebody who's immune to stone and they put a buff on, it's not going to matter. It causes instant death for one unit on specific turns, so you got to be careful about that. You need to have sources of death immunity. And then he removes status effects on certain turns, activates area effect that lowers earth resistance for the whole enemy and allies at the start of the battle, and he happens to be weak to earth and fire. So you've got options there for how you want to take this unit out, or this boss out. We're going to be going with a fire team, so let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and pass all this up because we're going to pretend that we are bringing a Roberta friend, and Roberta is going to help us out. So we're going to pretend this unit is not mine. This is a friend Roberta, and we'll talk about Roberta last because she doesn't really matter a whole lot in terms of gear. So you can just literally grab anybody who's running a Roberta friend, and this will be fine. You don't have to have her geared any specific way. Let's start with my units. So we've got Lone Lion Squall here, equipped for Stone Killer, and just reasonable attack and some Stone Killer. Yes, there are some STMRs here, but these are really old. Not that big a deal. This is a quest or season 4 quest reward. This is an old trial reward, and we got some stuff here. Stone Eater Sense, and this is against Reaper, so we can even take this off. Doesn't matter. We're already capped on attack, and that's important. That's whatever. Tyvis's Spirit. I recognize that Tyvis is a Neovisions unit, but we've got it here. Yeah, a lot of people have Tyvis. If you don't have Tyvis, you don't have to have that. It's going to be okay. It just might take a little bit longer, but we're going to go ahead and do it with Tyvis. And then, he's got the time limited vision card for great swords. If you don't have it, you don't have to have it. You can just equip him with something else, or just any high attack vision card, and you're going to be fine. He's not doing most of the heavy lifting. He's doing about half the heavy lifting. But here's how he's generally built. Stone Killer, LB damage. That's what he needs. Okay. Let's talk about Fina. So in this run, Fina is passive provoking with evasion and death immunity. So her role is to eat up the single target attacks and eat up the death attacks. And so she's geared for that. So she's got 100% evasion. She's got 100% passive provoke. And that's really all she does other than filling HP and MP a little bit. This does not have to be Fina. It could be somebody else if you really wanted to. That's fine. I just happen to be running her because she's an NVA and she's old and she does HP and MP restore for the party. The important thing is passive provoke, evasion, death immunity. Zell we've got here, you know, geared reasonably well. Again, he gears pretty easily for Stone Killer, so that's not a bad thing at all. He does not have his LB damage maxed out because he's not really doing his LB for damage, but instead for modifier boosts. He's not even fully built out, you know, just attack, Stone Killer. He does a little bit, not nearly as much as Squall, but he does some work there. And then Runda, we've got Runda built for defense and HP, just like they told us to. You could build your tank for evasion. A lot of the attacks can be evaded, but you don't have to worry about that. I do happen to have Runda equipped with Lakshmi Synergy. That's going to help Runda to restore the petrification that occurs on some turns, and it's only a random chance. So if you don't have that, you know, if you want to try and increase your chances, you could equip like the Blizzard Orb. You could equip the Cypher's Disciplined Coat. You could do Looming Wrath to try and increase the chance that this is going to trigger. But in my experience, it's got a 30% chance to trigger, and you get hit so many times because he's covering that it's pretty much going to proc when you want it to, as long as he's not stoned himself. And he's not even wearing a good defense vision card. He's just got, you know, whatever. So defense, HP, Lakshmi Synergy if you have it. It's pretty good item, pretty good materia. And he's also got the Obsidian Bracer on to just help break. Don't have to have it. It's just going to help out with the basic breaks on turn 1. Zell is going to be using his SLB at some point to break attack and magic. Squall is going to be breaking defense breaks and spirit breaks. And there you go. I said Roberta's gear does not really matter. We're going to pretend that you have a friend Roberta who's just like, you know, armed to the teeth with good stuff. Good attack and magic on this form and good attack on this form. You know, you're just grabbing a random Roberta, so her gear does not matter because it's a friend Roberta. This is just happens to be mine. So here we are. And ideally, doesn't have to, but ideally, you know, I've got, just for convenience sake, I've got mine starting in the shift form. Doesn't matter. You could just shift her on turn 1 and use her shifted form skills and then shift her back on turn 2. Really not a big deal. But let's go ahead and do this thing. We've been rambling for long enough. Okay. So Stroper looks really cool. He puts up the earth resistance downfield. You know, that's cool. We're going to use fire instead. So to start us off, our friend Roberta is going to use Stone Killer buff, Inferno Breath, and Emissary of Demise. That's going to amplify and boost fire damage. It's going to give everybody fire damage. It's going to boost Stone Killer for 5 turns, and it's going to make everybody's attack modifiers and stuff better. There we go. Squall is going to just use his like cooldowns and his Magnus. Zell is going to use his base, you know, basic LB, just for something to do. Really doesn't matter. We're pretty much waiting for turn 4 to do the real damage. Okay. Runda is just going to use Protectica, and he's going to use Cover. He's not going to use Provoke because active Provoke beats passive Provoke. And since Fina is passive provoking, we don't want to use active Provoke. But we'll go ahead and use Runda Laser to just break the boss. Obsidian Bracer already did, but that's another break we could do. And then Fina is just going to use Manatopia to gradually fill MP and Shining Cheer to gradually fill HP. And that's it for turn 1. So what's going to happen here? Some single target stuff is going to hit, but Runda's going to jump out in front and take it. And then Lakshmi Synergy you just saw went off because he got hit a bunch of times. He got hit 5 times with a 30% chance that should trigger at least once. And it's only going to trigger once per turn anyway, but there it is. And so as a result, anybody who would have been stoned is now not stoned, but they're not stoned anyway because that doesn't happen on this turn. All right, turn 2. We're just going to do some damage with the boys here. Zell and Squall are just going to do some bolting strike chaining. Not that big a deal. We're just trying to do a little bit of damage. Okay, we did about 4%. Roberta's going to shift down and use Support from the Skies, Mega Breath, and Draconic Triune for the big HP barrier. Or no, that's not the HP barrier. That's okay. But we're in a lot better shape with that Support from the Skies because now we have Mirage stack, so that's good. Runda is just going to guard just to take less damage on this turn. And Fina is, again, just going to use Manatopia. And this time do just Healing Petals just to restore HP. There we go. Runda's going to jump out in front. Procking all the stuff. Fina got petrified, but Lakshmi Synergy went off, so now Fina is not petrified anymore. Ta-da! She can participate again. So this turn, we're going to do a couple of things. Thank you, Roberta. Roberta's going to use her base LB to buff LB damage and just like stat buff and all the cool stuff, as well as Spear Imperil for herself. There we go. Thank you, Roberta. Zell is going to use his SLB to give himself the modifier boost for his capping skills. Squall, if you have it, is going to Typhus Spirit here. If you don't, he could use Lion's Spirit, Lion's Vigor, and whatever just to kind of boost up his LB damage as much as possible. Okay. And Runda is again going to guard. Fina is just going to guard as well. Death Attack comes in, goes after Fina, but she resists it because she's got the safety bit on. So we're all fine. We're all back in the fight. Squall is ready to use his SLB. Zell is going to quad, and we're going to do Booyah and 3 punch rushes. Runda is going to Stargazer just to have some good stuff in place in case we don't kill the boss right here. Fina is going to use her LB just to contribute a little bit of damage. And Roberta is going to quad Mystic Breath. Okay, so Squall's going to apply a good break here, so is Zell, and then Roberta is going to chain it up. And or no, Zell already applied a good break. So Squall's going to apply the defense and Spirit Break here, and then we're going to do some damage. So I'm going to trigger Zell first, and then Squall, and then Roberta, and then Lotus Mage Fina. So... Here we go. 4 turns. Boss obliterated using, a couple Neovision Awakens and 1 Neovision unit that could be a friend unit. And then Runda, of course, because, doesn't have to be it really doesn't have to be Runda. Runda's just a good, solid free tank. We've got Runda available. Here's the breakdown of how this went. This is pretty much how it went on stream too. Roberta did 4.8. Squall did 4 billion. Zell did 1.3. So definitely doing the damage here. Squall did about half the damage. Roberta did about half the damage, and Zell chipped in a little bit too. But that will get you the Reaper Eater Sense. Let's take a look at it just while we've got it on screen here. Go back into my party. Whatever, Red Star, hello. And we'll equip it to somebody just so you can see it. There we go. It boosts physical and magic by 75% and gives you attack and magic 40%. So that's pretty solid piece of equipment for Undead Killer for a lot of different units. So very useful to grab this. If you've never picked it up, now's your chance to go get it with these units. So if that is helpful to you, let me know. If it's not helpful to you, let me know. If you need a good Roberta friend, let me know in the game, or let me know here, and I'll try and reach out to you and help you out with a good Roberta friend, because I'm pretty sure I've got Roberta set as mine. Let's see. I can't remember what my friend units are right now. Yep, I've got a Roberta friend on mine. So like if you are looking for a Roberta friend, you could have one too right there. Just let me know if you need one and I'll make room for you, or do my best to. But that'll do it. So that'll get us into this Final Fantasy 1 event, and hopefully get us some ready for some good stuff with all the Reaper enemies that we're going to be facing on Thursday. And we'll see you. Speaking of Thursday, we'll see you over on Twitch, 9 p.m. Central Time US, to do new content night, where we'll try and do as much of that new content as possible. Have fun, hang out and chat and all that cool stuff that we do over on Twitch. But for now, that's going to be it. And I hope to see you for the next video, and in the game, and in chat on Thursday. And I hope that you're all being good to each other and having a good week. All right, take care.